My van refused to start this morning. The diesel lines had air in them again, and the comfort net of staying in Brisbane seemed to drag at me with elastic tentacles. Eventually, I strained against them and snapped free. Join me for a journey south towards Bald Rock National Park. My ethos for the coming week of travel was decided. I would take my time, stop a lot, and visit as many beautiful places as time would allow. The diesel was far too expensive to justify anything else. My first destination was the Head Road, a winding, steep pass which snaked through the Main Range National Park. I love roads like this. They're much slower and far more scenic, and just more fun. This is the lookout at the top of the Head Road. It overlooks the scenic rim, and it's one of the most beautiful areas in southeast Queensland. I didn't care too much for all the Mercedes-Benz and BMWs that were waiting at the top with their packet chips. Along the way and high above, I stopped at Queen Mary Falls for lunch. We'd had a lot of rain lately, so the water was pounding. The afternoon was marked by a series of smooth, long dirt roads which traversed the backcountry in dappled sunshine. I followed these for what must have been a couple of hours, and by mid-afternoon, I eventually arrived at the entrance to Bald Rock National Park. I quickly strapped on some shoes and set off up the steep, grippy granite, hoping to reach the summit before sundown. Bald Rock is, apparently, the largest granite dome in all of the southern hemisphere. The scenery here is spectacular, and the granite dome is very peaceful and stands alone for miles around. I played around in crevasses between boulders and soaked in the views atop the summit, which were expansive. As I sat in the shade of a large, bowl-topped boulder, I heard the approach of the only other human on the dome. He carried a very large camera, and we immediately greeted and began chatting, and looking through binoculars at Giraween, which is in the distance. His name was Bharat, from India, and now living in Tenterfield. I did not film him. The sun set, and Bharat left, inviting me for a free coffee at the petrol station he worked at the next morning, which I intended to take him up on. I stayed while the sun exalted a fiery red farewell, then walked out in the approaching darkness. I felt as if I was watched from the trees as I entered the camp. That evening, I decided to make dinner at the bottom of Bald Rock at the campsite. I have a kitchen in my van which folds out the back, and using this, I decided to make a pretty quick and simple dinner so I could sit down by the fire and enjoy the night. I cut up an onion along with some mushrooms and some bolognese sauce. I threw in some pasta for good measure, and then on top of this, I also made a salad. For the meat and potatoes of the pasta, I used some beans. I got a fire going, and the whole time when I was sitting down, I could hear something crawling around in the sticks and brush near my camp. It was getting pretty close, and I could see a pair of eyes reflecting back at me whenever I shone my torch. It turned out to be a spotted quoll, which is a marsupial predator that's native to Australia, and I'd never seen one in person before. It turned out that this quoll was incredibly tame with people, and it ended up by basically jumping into my kitchen and eating all of the food that I hadn't already taken. If you'd like to see the full video of that encounter, I'll leave a description link down below and you can watch it. Thanks for coming along to a journey to Bald Rock National Park.